Let's welcome to the show this morning political strategist and the CEO of the Alliance for Secure AI. Here's Brendan Steinhauser. Brendan, welcome and good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Chuck. Thank you for having me.
Let me ask you right off the bat, where the heck is Flatonia, Texas? You hail out of Flatonia, Texas. That's what you're a native of. I'm somewhat familiar with the state of Texas. I lived in Plano for a couple of years. Where is Flatonia?
It is right in the middle of everywhere. It's between Houston and San Antonio, about halfway, and it's definitely God's country.
Okay. Yep. That means you got some open land there. That's for sure. I can tell you that. Let's talk about this. Can we talk about let's talk about the next big beautiful bill. I didn't realize that they were talking about a second big beautiful bill. Is this a pretty strong possibility?
I think it is. I think they looked at what they were able to accomplish in the first version, and all the different policy areas that they were able to tackle, whether border security or defense spending, Medicaid reform, reducing the cost of student loan debt, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that they're looking at this saying, okay, what can we get done that's similar with a number of other policy areas in addition to doubling down on some of these areas. I expect them to probably do some work on tax reform, making some of those reforms more permanent. For example, no taxes on tips or overtime. And I would expect them to also double down on the border security issue as well.
I don't know why, but I was hoping they might do something about tax on Social Security. But I'm just in that area these days, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink. Yeah.
Sure. Well, look, Social Security is a major driver of national debt, along with Medicare and Medicaid, and it's something Republicans have kind of tried to do in the past. There hasn't been much political will to do it now, but with us being $36 trillion in debt, I think the time is now, and I frankly think this president is probably the perfect guy to make a deal to transition us to an age where we actually can save Social Security for those who are about to retire or are retired, and then, allow young people to have an option to make it more of an option as opposed to forcing them in the system. I think that can make it solvent and help us with our economic growth as well if we do that.
We had certainly some backlash on the first big beautiful bill. There were some people that thought this would be the end of the world and Lord only knows what, and it still passed and stuff. Are we going to have some backlash on the second one if we get something to go through?
There's always going to be holdouts on different policy areas, and I think that's a healthy thing. It's good to wait and see and to kind of make your case for what you want in the bill or out of the bill. In my role as leading the Alliance for Secure AI, we were not happy with the AI moratorium, the idea that the federal government was going to trample on the 10th Amendment and tell states they can't legislate on AI policy. So we fought hard on that, and that was removed from the bill. I hope that doesn't make its way back into the next one. Other friends in Congress were mostly concerned about spending reform. Others had other areas that they were concerned about. So I think there's always going to be work to improve the legislation. There's always going to be holdouts. But I think Speaker Johnson proved that, there are the votes there to get those key policy areas done, and I expect they'll probably do the same with this one.
It just seems like this is such a transition from the last administration here. I stand and watch him take, questions from the press and stuff, and I'm just like, holy mackerel, we're not used to this and stuff. And I mean, he's taking questions at random, calling the press out by name and stuff. It's 180 degrees here, the way and he seems to be on the fast track for just about everything.
Yeah, it's a really incredible track record of success, whatever you think about the president's leadership style or whether you agree or disagree with some of the policies. I mean, just take border security, for example. It's incredible to see how fast that turnaround happened by changing policies, changing incentives, showing that we were going to be serious about illegal immigration. That was almost an overnight shift where people stopped coming because they knew they were not going to get to stay. And so I think he has shown that if you are laser focused on trying to change policy and you put all of your political capital into it and you hire the right people to get it done and you support those folks on the ground, you can have a huge impact.
We were told for 4 years that we couldn't do it without new legislation or new laws and stuff, and within 60 days things kind of turned and stuff. No telling who's in this country and stuff that we let in and stuff. It's amazing how the underground world got word, hey, go to the U.S., you get in, and Lord have mercy, it's Christmas every day.
Oh, it was definitely a policy that was on purpose to allow people in. The Biden administration pretended like they couldn't solve it, but I think we all knew what the truth was. But we weren't able to really see that until President Trump was reelected and he came in on day one and started to change those policies. And I saw some of that firsthand as a guardsman myself on the border for a bit. I had troops down there, and it went from just total chaos and people just overrunning law enforcement down there to basically law enforcement and guard troops sitting around saying, well, this is different. There are a few people coming across. We actually have time to relax and go to the gym and do other things. And so really an incredible policy win for the president and for Republicans in Congress.
So you were actually along the border itself. I mean, you were down there in person on the ground.
I was, and I met with a lot of the commanders up and down the sector, and we talked about what it would take to secure the border. And of course, it's interesting. A lot of the commanders on the various sectors were saying they were thinking in terms of troops and personnel and equipment and that sort of thing. And I started to do some back of the envelope math, and they were basically talking about putting 50,000 troops on the border of Texas alone just to secure it. And what I think people kind of didn't think enough about was it's not just the boots on the ground; it's actually the policies. And I think the policies are what made the biggest difference here on the border.
Do you think, and we'll have to let you go here pretty quick, Brendan, do you think that can the Democrats undo the legislation and policies that have been set in place?
I think they certainly could with enough time, which is why Republicans are going to have to compete and win in the midterm election next year, and of course in the presidential one after that. But it does take time. It will be hard to reverse everything, and it will be hard to reverse everything in time. But I think that's why the administration and his allies, President Trump's allies in Congress, are working hard to codify these policies. They're working hard to make sure that they eliminate departments and agencies that are basically just corrupt. And so it'd be a much harder thing to try and come in and recreate all of that stuff. And I think the exposure and the transparency and the accountability has really made it much more difficult for Dems to do that, but they're definitely going to try.
Mm-hmm. This is political strategist, CEO of the Alliance for Secure AI, Brendan Steinhauser, and also a veteran. Thank you for your service to this country, Brendan. Appreciate that so much. And thank you for your time this morning. Great insight. I'd like to continue this. We'll call you back sometime.
Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.